Welcome to our channel. We're Gav and Nicole, and we decided to completely turn our lives upside down and move from a hectic city to the west coast of Wales to bring an abandoned smallholding back to life. We were finally living on site and were so excited about the week ahead of us and getting the house cleared and cracking on with our list of jobs. However, as it turned out, the renovation gods had other plans for us. We've decided to kick the week off by breathing some life back into the house, as some of the windows and doors had been locked and bolted shut for years. And so it was time to air the place out and start to strip the house back to its bare bones. The kitchen was the grimiest part of the house, so it was great to make a start on getting it clean. And despite my inability to work a pulley, we will be definitely keeping this for our house when it's finished. We love this fireplace, or ingle nook as they call it in Wales. The section in the middle appears to be a later addition, so we're still figuring out what we're going to do with it all, but the idea would be to either keep it as a functioning stove or just as a feature. But if anyone has something similar, please do let us know in the comments, as we'd love to get a bit of inspiration or advice. If you've seen last week's episode, you will have noticed our caravan arriving through a hole in our fence, so one of Gav's jobs was to get that patched. We will eventually get round to fixing all our fences properly, but for now this would have to do. You will also notice that Gav has been joined by a glamorous assistant in the shape of his father Barry. His parents had come for their first visit to the farm and were helping us out on numerous jobs. For a bit of family history, Barry and his side of the family are actually Welsh, but from the north side of the country. So he was over the moon when he found out Gav was coming back to the motherland. Now the eagle-eyed amongst you may think that this fence is being installed upside down, and you would be correct. But don't worry, multiple neighbours popped round to let Gav know of his mistake, and it became a bit of a village talking point, which of course Gav was thrilled about. So whilst Gav and Barry were outside ruining our street cred with the locals, Gav's mum and I cracked on inside and cleared the downstairs of all the bits and bobs that had been left in the house. For me, all of these items are so special. I think it's amazing to think about each item's history and how they ended up in the house, and why the previous owner held on to them over the years. Gav, on the other hand, has a slightly more pragmatic view on these things and would quite gladly pat them all on the skip. But luckily he trusts my judgment, and I know we'll find ways to use and display these things in the future, and it will be a great way to keep the history of the building alive. We were also so happy to find out that the quarry tiles from the back of the house were hiding under the rotting living room carpet and all looked in brilliant condition. We suspect that they are just laid on the dirt, so we'll have to lift them up and put in an appropriate subfloor and underfloor heating, but our plan will then be to relay them on top as we think they're brilliant. We were also sadly coming to the end of our time with the little mini digger, which meant Gav was still working at 100 miles an hour. He prepped the space for a small parking bay off the driveway, and we also got our internet installed by the lovely team at CS Cymru. As our internet speeds were terrible, we qualified for a Welsh Government scheme that meant we were able to get hooked up for almost free, which at a time when money seemed to be running out the door was very welcome. Then as Gav's final job on the digger, he did a pass on the courtyard, which turned out to be a slightly more effective method than my strimming. Now, as we had the internet, I tootled off to organise what was soon to become my office. This was the perfect job for me to crack on with, as it didn't need Gav, and it was just a case of moving the built-in beds and moving in my furniture. But unfortunately, as with all things in a renovation, jobs are never quite that straightforward. Shortly after unscrewing the beds, I had leant on the outside wall, only to find my hand go entirely through it. We later worked out that there must have been a leak from the window that had slowly rotted away the wall and the floor underneath it. But because it was behind the bed, no one had really realised. The van was sold as seen, and we'd been told about a leak in the bathroom which would need fixed, but combine that with the leak from the bedroom, and as both rooms were side by side, we ended up with two rooms that basically needed to be rebuilt. This was the last thing we needed, and meant we were back working and spending money on the van rather than focusing on the house. Also, having seen how little insulation was actually in the caravan, we quickly realised if we were going to survive this winter, we were going to have to put a log burner in. Our budget caravan was becoming less and less of a bargain by the day. But we had to dig around online and managed to find a log burner second hand for £150, and Gav added that onto his ever-expanding list of jobs. But all said and done, Gav, as always, managed to get it fixed in a matter of days, and whilst we weren't exactly improving the curb appeal of our caravan, the chances of me unexpectedly falling through the floor of my office had been greatly reduced. And if that's not something to be happy about, I'm not sure what is. Thanks for taking the time to watch this episode, and to everyone who has followed along so far. We've been blown away by all of your support, kind words and advice, and as ever we really appreciate if you can like and subscribe, and we hope to see you again next week.